This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Will Ciolino, founder and CEO of Anthology Corporation. Anthology is a brand new portfolio management system that provides powerful organization for all of your photos. Anthology provides a fully customizable profile UI, which allows artists to extend their creativity beyond just their photos and maximizes given real estate on small devices to bring the viewer's focus on the photos. Keyword tagging allows users to easily find new profiles, photos, and portfolios. Additionally, Anthology introduces beginners and hobbyists to consumers looking to purchase physical prints. It also allows artists to set their own royalty rates, terms, and conditions for licensing. Businesses pay less for stock photos while artists keep more of the revenue. This gives professionals and amateurs the ability to sell and market their skills to consumers seeking private or event photo shoots. Will, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Hall, how are you? Honored to be talking to you today.
Great. So what was your background before founding Anthology? What did you do before this?
Yeah, before I took the plunge into the rabbit hole that is entrepreneurship, so I was an engineer. So I graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering a few years ago. I've always been an artist, always been a creative, and it was a great field really to get into that as well. I started working on a small team in a pharmaceutical consulting lab. Really, that's where I guess I just started learning the ropes and how to become a solver when you're faced with a problem, right? And I took those talents over to a manufacturing plant where we were trying to move multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment from one facility over to another. You can imagine the stress that for a business owner, if you're trying to make this move and these pieces of equipment don't fit at the end of the day, how stressful that must be. So we had to make sure that was going to work out in their favor. And then most recently, I worked for a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company in their 3D technologies department. So there I was able to work on over 1,000 unique projects doing customized solutions for various different problems across the world. And it was such a rewarding experience because we were working in a relatively small team. So really we were just like a jack of all trades of sorts. We really did full scale operations, everything from design and engineering to prototyping to the fabrication and post-production. And even the shipping and customer relations side of it, it was a tremendous experience from that regard, and it prepared me well for what I'm doing now.
So what led you to start working the photo portfolio space?
So for me, I've been an artist and a creative for about 9 to 10 years now, give or take. Started pretty small, and I would just find like pictures of drawings online and try to replicate them. And then I found photography, and I really took a liking to it, and I kept with it for years, and I still, to this day, I'm a hobbyist photographer. And I guess to me, what I was able to do with this space was I was always looking for a solution for a problem in a hobby of mine. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur of some sort, as I got older, and that really took hold around like the time of when I graduated high school. So I knew I wanted to work for myself someday, and it just came upon me during one of my, one day when I was just thinking on some of my hobbies, what is it in the photography space that I could really have an impact on? And I think there was a huge opportunity to design a brand new photography platform that really caters to everybody's needs. There was a lacking in the complementary side of the industry, right? Everything is very basic and I guess lackluster in terms of design, and it doesn't really complement the art well in forms of media that we have today.
And so what's your advice for people investing in this space? What do you tell them to do before they invest their money?
So before investing in the digital or social media space, I try to tell people, don't gloss over the photography market, especially so because I hear a lot of times, and I get this sense after having some meetings with individuals, that we tend to think that this market is too saturated or that the well of ideas has run dry. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The technology is always improving. There's always new artists coming to the forefront. There's always new content. There's new virality left and right all over the place. And even from just a digital space and a digital market, there's now standards coming into play in terms of how photography is being shared. So this opens the door for a ton of new innovation, more platforms, better access, just all around it. The photography industry is not a sleeper cell, so to speak.
Well, great. And so tell us more about the sector itself. How do you see the industry evolving?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll kind of segment it out. From my perspective, there are always new technologies coming out, right? We always have new camera equipment. There's always better imaging sensors. Sony just recently announced their new Alpha 1 camera. Nikon, I believe this week, announced a new line of cameras. Online, even from the mobile photography industry, right? You look at things like Google Pixel and what Samsung's been doing for years. There's leaks about the new iPhone 13 coming in the fall with upgraded camera equipment. So there's a ton of new innovation in that space, and everybody's always getting better and better, which is really exciting. On the editing side, right, you have Adobe and what they're doing with Photoshop, Lightroom, and all their suite of products. That is always improving and always getting better. On an individual level, I mentioned that everybody's an artist now. With the advent of these smartphones in our pockets, everybody becomes a photographer. Everybody has access to really high-powered cameras, which just creates perspectives all over the place and makes the world better. It makes the documenting the world just that much better than it was yesterday. But where I think I've seen in the experience that I've had so far, where I've seen actually a regression is in the distribution market. Photographers have felt taken advantage of for some time now. If you think about it, the platforms that we're using, the very empires that they built today were on the backs of us as content creators. And lately they've been turning their heads in the direction of influencer culture and brand marketing. And from a business perspective, I can't necessarily blame them because it's a huge market. There's a lot of money in it. But as an artist, it makes you feel wrong. It makes you feel like there's a lack of acknowledgement and appreciation for what you've helped to build. So I think there's a huge opportunity in this space to promote itself and the artist behind it.
And so what's the growth rate of this sector? How fast is it moving forward?
So what's nice about the photography industry is typically we see expected growth, and we've come to know that it's measured because it's such a mature industry. It's been around for a while. But with that said, obviously there's the big elephant in the room, that's COVID-19 and the pandemic. So I'll throw a stat out there that might surprise you, but 95% of the professional market are freelancers in some capacity. And when you think about it, freelancer photography was absolutely decimated with the pandemic. Weddings went away. People stopped having birthday parties. People were scared to go out, rightfully so, right? And businesses stopped having private events. There was a lack of a need for freelancer photography and for some time. And to this day, it's weakened. It's getting better with the rise of vaccinations and the opening of public spaces again. And I think from my perspective, I would say that for the coming months and maybe even a year or so, we'll still see that slow, steady growth back to where it was pre-COVID levels, which is exciting. And it also provides an opportunity for the companies that are coming along to grow with that freelancer market alongside of them.
And so how many companies are engaged in this sector?
So the mobile platform industry, it's always getting bigger. There's always new viral platforms coming out. Clubhouse just released a few weeks ago, kind of overnight and seemingly out of nowhere. And obviously we have the big social media platforms that everybody can name, but there are a ton of others out there that are smaller companies, but well-known within the industry who have millions of users under their belts. For the photography market specifically, there are a few up and coming now and small startups that are trying to capture different sectors in the market, which is encouraging. But as an artist, if I put my photographer lens on and I'm just looking for a new platform to use for myself, a lot of times what I tend to see is that these companies tend to mimic a lot of their feature sets based on the bigger platforms out there. And just to me, like I said, as an artist, that's a red flag. It seems to show that they don't understand that there's a hunger for something new, for something better, for a platform that fits our needs and fits with what we want to use. And so it's unfortunate to see some of that happening. But there are a ton of companies out there, and there's a bunch of them.
Oh, great. And so you talked about COVID being a challenge in the space, but aside from that, what are the other challenges that you face in this market?
From an industry perspective, I would say, for me personally, the biggest challenge is always the constant fear of being drowned out by those larger corporations. They got a ton of working capital that they can use at their disposal whenever they want. But obviously, that is a measured fear in some capacity, right? Every industry, there's always bigger players, and we always see newcomers come along and succeed pretty well. From a social perspective, I would say the challenge is that we're facing as with social media companies is mainly around how do we maintain integrity and maintain customer relations and trust. Lately, people have known and come to know about what business practices are of some of these companies in terms of their personal data and how they sell it for advertisement revenue. And obviously that people are mad about that. They're upset about that, and rightfully so. So I think as a young social media company, we have a great opportunity to build our business using a model that doesn't require leveraging that customer data. Some of these larger companies, they've built massive overhead and with the expectations that advertisement revenue is going to be there. So you see them putting a lot of pressure to keep these practices in place. But I think there's a real push to change that.
So how does Anthology fit into this overall landscape?
So at Anthology, we're building a premium environment where distributive workflows and revenue streams happen all in one space. So what that means is you'll be able to have access to new ways of earning income as an artist. You'll be able to create efficiency in your workflows and just have a platform at your disposal that complements and acknowledges your talents as a creative.
Well, great. And can you tell me what the plans are for it?
Yeah. So we recently just launched our MVP at the end of January. That allows our artists to start building their personal and professional portfolios. So you'll be able to start putting content onto the platform now. In the next 2 weeks or so, we're going to be releasing some new feature sets, including search and the ability for public-facing profiles. So you'll be able to find your friends and see what other artists are building and what portfolios they've built so far. Towards the end of March, we're building a pretty revolutionary feature for the photography industry that right now I'm kind of hesitant to talk about just a little bit like in these days, but that is coming towards the end of March. And then we have a set of feature sets that will be coming out in the summertime as well around location databases, a marketplace based on blockchain technology, and a ton of other exciting, really cool features that I'm happy to keep promoting.
Great. And what's your future vision for Anthology? Where do you hope to end up with it?
I hope that at the end of the day, Anthology will become a massive platform that allows artists to make as much money as possible in their fields, whether you're a professional and you work with brands regularly or do commission-based work or license work, or you're just a hobbyist and a beginner and you're trying to test out new revenue streams, right? Maybe you're selling one of your photos for the first time, or you're trying to sell a licensed photo for the first time. I hope and I believe that Anthology will become the place where people turn to for those types of workflows. And then obviously I believe we'll be expanding to other countries in the next few years and start helping photographers internationally as well as other markets too, right? There's other creatives that this type of technology can complement. If you think of fine artists and painters and anybody else who really maintains portfolios in whatever capacity.
Well, great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I would just say that I hope that people continue to look for new platforms, continue to push social media for changing, and to keep striving and becoming better artists. If you are an artist out there, know that there are technologies coming out down the pipeline that are being built for you. And yeah, just continue pushing forward and taking photographs.
Great. Well, how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Yeah, so anyone who wants to connect with me, I'm available across pretty much all the social media platforms, but you could email me at william.ciolino@anthology-us.com. You can visit the website anthology-us.com or go and sign up and build your first portfolio, or you could download the iOS mobile application as well. If you just search for Anthology, it'll be at the top or near the top of the list.
Great. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Hall. I appreciate it.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall in podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.